Hi everyone, happy Friday. Hope you're having a lovely day. Welcome to our last English lesson of the week. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of reading comprehension, looking at our class text of Asher and the Spirit Bird. So right now you need in front of you your book, which hopefully most of us have collected from school for our resources, our Asher and the Spirit Bird book. So I'm going to share my screen so we can have a look at what we're doing today. So what are we going to be doing? We're going to be using our inference and prediction and reading skills. How? By reading and researching. And why? So we can learn about Asher's home and predict what our story will be about. Now, some of this objective we've already met because we've started to have a little thing about what our book is going to be about. Okay, and we did this last Monday when we were last in school. So we started to look at some of the kind of key clues and the key things our book would be about. So we started by looking at the front cover, didn't we? And we made some predictions. So for example, we know that this book is going to be about someone called Asher. We also know that it's about a spirit bird. Now this word spirit bird, or these words spirit bird, sorry, told us that this book is probably going to have a bit of magic in it because we don't have spirit birds in our, well, we might do, okay, but spirit birds are kind of magical creatures. Also on the front cover, we can see some animals and some plants that we probably don't have in the UK. Like we have a tiger down here, and we have this kind of vulture-y eagle kind of bird up here as well. Okay, so that told us that our book probably isn't set where we live. It might be set somewhere else. There's also this other clue here of the mountain range. So it's probably set in the mountains. Okay, so we started to make some predictions based off what we already knew. What we're going to do today is we're going to go back to the first chapter because that's a chapter that we are familiar with. So we're not working with new reading. We are working with something that we have already read to help us. We are going to have a go answering some reading comprehension questions based off our chapter. Now, in order to do this, we're just going to rewind back to our magnifiers because these magnifiers are really going to help you when you are reading a question. So for example, when you are reading a question, you're going to want to be thinking, what is this question asking me? And which magnifier am I going to use to answer it? For example, if the question was, what is the book title? You would look at the book and you'd read Asher and the Spirit Bird. That would be retrieval because you're finding the answer in the text. Okay, we're going to have a look at some of these other some other examples of the different types of questions in a moment. First, I just want to introduce you to this idea of comprehension monitoring, and we're going to practice this in a moment when we're reading our first chapter. Now, comprehension monitoring sounds very fancy. It's really not fancy at all. All it means is we are checking whether we understand as we read. This means that if there's something that we don't understand, we need to go back and we need to sort that out. We need to fix that problem. Okay, this way, when we come to answer our comprehension questions, we'll understand the text really well because we've already recognised whether or not we understand it. Okay, so comprehension monitoring is a big fancy word, or two words, but all it means is checking our own understanding. Do you understand what you're reading? This is a really important skill when you are reading because it means that if you don't understand something, you can apply a strategy to go and fix that problem. In a moment, we're going to have a go at doing that. So comprehension monitoring is just checking your own understanding. Okay, if you don't understand it, there are a few things that you can do to help you. For example, and the easiest, most simple strategy you can use is you can go back and you can reread that part of the text. Okay, read it 5 times if you need to, and read it slow. Okay, then hopefully you'll start to gain a better understanding. If you've reread it and you still don't understand, you might need to do a bit of research about one of the words that's in that text. If there's a certain word that you don't know what it means, you might need to go and find out what that word means before you can understand what the text is telling you. Okay, so there are a couple of strategies you can use to help you when you are monitoring your own comprehension to make sure you understand what you're reading. What we're going to do now is we're going to read the first chapter of Asher and the Spirit Bird together. So that way, even if you don't have your book at home, you've heard the chapter and you can go back to it. And it's also good practice for the rest of us as well. So making sure you are following along with the book, we're just going to read this one together. So, chapter 1. In fact, what I can do is, I'm going to get very technical now. I'm just going to pause. Very slick, I know. Wonderful, look at that. So I have got now my text under my visualizer, so you can all read along with me, even if you don't have your book at home. So chapter 1, we might not read the whole chapter, we're going to read a few pages and see how we go. I crouched close to the bittersweet straw in the cowshed. Last night, strange dream racing through my heart. The cows shuffle to make room as I steady myself and duck low along the floor. I prise my fingers under the heavy stone, pulling out a small wooden box. My hands tremble as I lift the lid, carefully unfold Papa's last letter and trace his address across the fragile yellow paper. 102 Connaught Place, Vanderpool. He's been working away for 8 long months, and I don't know why he hasn't written since the half moon in May, 4 months ago. I brush away my salty tears with the back of my hand, and even though I know this letter off by heart, read each word as if he were right here with me. Dearest Asher, the city is so different to Moor Mannerley. It's busy and full of people. Working in the factory isn't too bad, but I'd much rather be home with all of you. I know you'll be studying hard at school and helping Ma. I miss you every day, and I promise I'll come back for your special birthday on Diwali. Always remember that I love you, Papa. I begin to refold the letter, but the clang of the spare cowbell startles me. It's swinging from a hook in the far corner, where not a breath of air can reach it. And suddenly I'm back in the frozen landscape of my dream, lost in the ice wilderness of the Himalayas. I press my back against Tulsi's steamy body and struggle to calm her. The cows are spooked too. I put the letter in my pocket and follow the bell as it moves from side to side through the whisper-still air. Goosebumps spike my arms and beads of cold sweat prickle my forehead, even though the shed is blazing with heat. I keep my eyes fixed on the bell, grab Papa's scarf from the shelf and wind it round my neck. I breathe in his comforting scent to stop the panic rising. Then the bell sounds again, this time even more loudly, echoing into the air like a death toll. I'm about to run and tell Ma, but stumble when I hear Jeevan outside shouting my name, his urgent footsteps pounding closer and closer. He bursts in, sending straw and dust flying everywhere. Asher! His face is red hot and fear sparks in his brown eyes. Asher, come quick! Your Ma needs you! What is it? I clutch the scarf. You're scaring me. Just come! He's panting so hard that his words burst out in snatches. Something terrible is... I'll tell you on the way. Is Ma all right? Is she hurt? Tell me. We've got to get down there. He grabs hold of my hand, pulling me out of the shed, and we hurtle downhill to the village. But the path is steep, and the loose stones are making me slip as air shoots into my lungs in painful gulps. I squint towards the clutch of houses, shielding my eyes against the glare of the shiny solar panels, and just make out the group of people gathered about our gates. They look like little dots from here, and I can't work out who they are. When we get closer, I see Ma, her green tunic flying through the air like it does when she uses it to swat flies. So here, this is an example of my comprehension monitoring. I've come across a word that I don't know what it means. I don't know what tuni means. I've never heard that word before. So if I'm using my comprehension monitoring, I now need to work out what that word means so that I can understand the text better. So I'm going to go to my glossary. I'm going to find the word tunic. It's going to be backstage. That's with C. And it means a long scarf worn by women, usually to match an outfit. Okay, so that's an example of me recognizing that I didn't know that word, and I'm going to go back to find the meaning. Now, sometimes with a word like this, I could still read on anyway, and I'd still know the meaning of the text. Okay, so if you didn't have a glossary, it might still be okay, because you can still actually read on and understand what the text means. He even grips my hand so tightly I can feel his fingernails sharp on my palms. There's a woman and some men, says Jeevan, between breaths. Not from round here. They're asking for money from young Ma. I feel sick, press my side to stop the stitch and keep on going past the mango tree. We're only a few steps from the house now, where everyone is spilling out of the garden, and I see the people Jeevan told me about. And we're going to pause there. So what I would like you to do now then, let me just go off. Let's go back on the slide. Is we are going to start to use some of our knowledge, some of our reading skills to answer some reading comprehension questions. So I've just snipped the questions here onto my slide. However, I will put on Class Dojo the whole sheet of questions as a PDF, so you can do them that way. That way you have them all. Now, remembering that when we're reading each question, we're thinking about what type of question this is. So which of our magnifiers are we going to be using? So our first question is, where do Asha and her family live? Now, this is going to be retrieval because we need to find the answer in the text. So we're going to have a look together then. So I crouch close to the bittersweet straw in the cowshed. Now, I'm not reading the whole thing again. I understand what this bit of text is about. And it's all about Asha reading the letter from her dad. So that's not going to tell me at the minute where they live. So I'm going to turn over. Now here, dearest Asha, the city is so different to Moor Mannerley. Okay, so I know that Moor Mannerley must be where Asha and her family live, because Asha's dad is comparing Moor Mannerley to the city where he now has to work. In my answer, I'm going to answer Moor Mannerley. We're just going to do one more together. So how is Asha feeling as she reads her papa's letter? Use evidence to support your answer. Now, this question is probably going to be an inference. And our inference, I'm just going to remind us, is using evidence and facts in the text to come to a conclusion. Okay, so the answer might not necessarily be directly in the text. It might not say Asha was feeling sad, but there might be some evidence in the text that tells us that she was feeling sad. Here it says, I brush away my salty tears with the back of my hand, and even though I know his letter off by heart, read each word as if you were right here with me. Okay, so we could make some inferences about how Asha is feeling based off this fragment here. I brush away my salty tears with the back of my hand. That tells us that Asha is crying, which tells us she's probably quite sad. Okay, so in your answer, you need to make sure you use the evidence and explain how you know that is making her feel a certain way. So we have done the first two questions together. You are going to have 8 questions to have a go at. When you're having a go at each question, I'd like you to be thinking about which magnifier you are using for each one, because there are going to be some different ones to use in the questions. The questions are going to be on a PDF, which I'm going to upload to, how do we stop here? There we go, which I'm going to upload to our class story. That is going to be everything for today. So please make sure you take a picture once you've had a go at the questions, or you can just write them down on a piece of paper if that is easier for you. Have a lovely, lovely weekend, and we will see you on Monday. Bye.